Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session, Adventures with GitHub Copilot in Visual Studio and .NET. My name is Anna. I am an event planner for Reactor, joining you from Redmond, Washington. Before we start, I just have some really quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. And while we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we do ask you keep it professional, on topic, and please be mindful of your commentary. You can also keep an eye on that chat. We will be sharing useful links and answering questions throughout. Our session is scheduled for about an hour. It will be recorded and available on demand in 24 to 48 hours. All righty, so I'm going to turn it over now. Joining us today. I'm going to let you take it over from here. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and bring my slides up. Thanks, Anna, so much. Well, welcome everyone to the first Copilot Adventures, which is really exciting. I am James Montemagnum, a program manager here at Microsoft. And with me are two of my best friends in the entire world, Katie and John. Have them introduce themselves. Go for it, Katie.
Yeah, hi everybody. Great to be here today. I'm also a program manager at Microsoft on the .NET community team. John?
John's muted, of course, because classic.
And that's all I have to say about that. My standard thing. Yeah, hi, I'm John Galloway. I also PM .NET community team. Loving Copilot lately. Happy to be here, and this looks like a lot of fun.
It's great to see everyone in the comments as well over on the .NET or Visual Studio channels. You may have seen our faces before if you're on either of those channels, because we've been doing quite a lot of just .NET videos and Visual Studio videos and Copilot videos as well. And today's going to be kind of a fun adventure, if you will, through using Copilot to accomplish some really cool things and have our AI Copilot coding besides us along the way. So let's go ahead into the agenda really quick here. And there's going to be kind of three parts. We're going to talk about what Copilot Adventures is as a high level. We're also going to just do a little bit of a getting started with GitHub Copilot. So if you're brand new, Katie's going to walk through what is Copilot, what are the features of Copilot, what are we going to be using today in some of these Copilot adventures. And then we're going to do a warm-up adventure together. So if you've installed Visual Studio and Copilot and everything like that, there's a small little warm-up that kind of walks us through some of the basics of Copilot. And then John, who is our, I would say, adventure / escape room expert on the team, is going to actually do one of the coding adventures. But you're sort of free to choose your own adventure as well on the GitHub repo, which is very exciting. Does that sound good to everybody? Yes. Cool. All right. So what are Copilot adventures? Well, these are coding challenges that you can solve using GitHub Copilot. So it's kind of cool. There's a whole repo that the team has set up. It's aka.ms/Copilot adventures. We'll drop that in the chat for everybody. Whoever can. There we go. Perfect. Amazing. Someone dropped it in the chat. Astonishing. So this is everything that you need to get up and running with Copilot Adventures. It has the main GitHub repository. And then additionally, it's going to have some information about how to get GitHub Copilot as well, which is very exciting. And then it's going to have the warm-up exercise. And there's several different Copilot adventures that are there. There's beginner, intermediate, and advanced. I think John's going to go with a super deluxe hard one today.
I was thinking intermediate, but we'll see.
Okay,
maybe I'll go crazy.
We were preparing for this, and then John was like on the super deluxe hard mode, and I couldn't even figure out the warm up. So it's great. So we're all here, different levels of where we're at, not only coding but also co-piloting and adventuring, if you will. Okay, cool. So one thing to kind of talk about first is, how do you get Copilot? And Viral asking, well, how do I get it? Well, I'm glad that you asked. And actually, we have a slide on that. So there's two ways of getting GitHub Copilot. First is that there's a free trial. So you can just sign up for a free trial at aka.ms/Copilot free trial. This will activate your GitHub account that is linked to your Visual Studio install when you install GitHub Copilot extensions. And Katie will show that off as well. So if you have never done anything before with GitHub Copilot, just go ahead and check out the Copilot free trial. It's a 30-day free trial. So this is the the best way of getting started with GitHub Copilot in general. Now, additionally, if maybe you've already used that free trial or it's not accessible to you because free trials do need a credit card to be entered in there, so maybe you don't have a credit card or something like that, we've worked really close with the GitHub team to actually offer a 7-day free trial coupon code. It's actually, so I guess it's a 7-day coupon code, if you will, bless you, that is available. So this is a little bit more advanced steps, but Dan, who's in the chat, actually updated the GitHub repo with GitHub Copilot directions. It's a little bit cut off there, but we can drop that in there. Thank you so much. And this is going to walk you through how to get the Copilot there. We have a limited number of coupons available. So we do stress, if you can do the Copilot free trial, it's 30 days. So it's the one that you want to go with. But for some reason, you have limitations. Like I said, if you've already done the free trial, or for example, you don't have a credit card, then you want to use the 7-day coupon code there. So these are the directions. And then specifically this link, the Copilot Coupon VS, will give you the full URL of actually retrieving that coupon code there. So if you have any issues at all, feel free to comment in the chat, and Dan is in there and he will help out because I don't know how it works besides this slide. So there we go. So with that, Katie, do you want to give us a quick little walkthrough of GitHub Copilot inside of Visual Studio?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. So like James just mentioned, make sure you get that free trial or that coupon so that you can access what we're going to be using today. Before we get into the cool part of going through all the adventures, I'm going to give us a lay of the land, maybe give us our adventuring map, show us what we need to get started with Copilot. So once you have that trial in place, you have your access, you're ready to go. What we need to do is then make sure that we're set up in Visual Studio to use Copilot. So the way that you're going to do that is pretty simple. It's an extension. So you're going to go to extensions here and manage extensions. And then it's really easy peasy. I'm just going to look up Copilot and not drop my coffee all over the table. And then all I have to do from there is just check out the Copilot extension. And today we're also going to be using the GitHub Copilot chat extension. I like to use both in different ways, and I'll be going through that in just a second. So as you can see, I have my green check marks, which means I've got those locked down. Then once you have that, first off, you can check in your GitHub profile to make sure those are good to go and all set up. But you can also just see the icon down here and see that, hey, I have Copilot all ready to go. All right, so today I'm going to go through how to use Copilot, and I'm going to use this really simple example that I found in the link documentation. So right here, I have my data source, which is just an in-memory list of student objects. They have names, they have IDs, and they have test scores. It's still fall, so I'm really feeling the student vibe here. So the first thing that I'm going to show off is GitHub Copilot Chat, because the way I like to use this is really to get a lay of the land when I'm in a new code base, and also just for asking questions, both about my code and about the topics that I'm going to be delving into. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to View and hit GitHub Copilot Chat. I could also use the shortcut Control-WI, but I just wanted to show off where you can default if you forget that shortcut. And as you can see, I have my GitHub Copilot Chat window opened up here on the right, and it's already giving me some suggestions of things that I might want to ask the chat. So, you know, given, let's say I'm new to Link, I'm new to this project, maybe I just want to figure out, you know, how I can query this data and maybe what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the chat box here and just say, how can I query the student data? And I'm going to let Copilot give me some suggestions. The cool thing about Copilot Chat is you can do all kinds of things. You can have Copilot generate code for you, which I'm sure is what a lot of you are familiar with when it comes to Copilot. But you can also ask it to explain pieces of code or help you kind of troubleshoot and fix areas in your code. So already it's giving me a lot of great information here about what I'm going to be using, some examples of what that might look like if I wanted to, you know, for example, sort the students in different ways. I could copy these snippets. I could preview them in my code. And then at the bottom, it's also going to give me more suggestions, maybe more specific prompts. A really great practice when it comes to Copilot, especially if you want it to generate code for you, is to be really specific with what you're looking for and not expect it to come up with a whole bunch of code for just one, small prompt. So, okay, kind of understanding what I need to do here. I could also ask it to find me the link documentation, which is something I really like to do, and I suggest that beginners do. It makes it way easier than me just going into my browser and trying to figure out where everything is. So cool. We know the chat's working. I like what it's giving me. Now I'm going to show off the second way that I like to use Copilot, which is probably the most familiar way to a lot of you, and that's just going into my programs.cs here and asking it via comments. So I'm going to go ahead and go in here, and I want to query this data. Maybe I want Copilot to help me get all the students that have first names that are fewer than 5 characters. Super simple example. I just want to show you how this is going to work. So I'm going to ask Copilot in a comment and just say, create a query to list the students whose first name is fewer than 5. And this cool gray text here is actually Copilot doing the work of trying to figure out what I want. So it's already anticipating my prompt. I'm just going to hit enter, and it's given me this suggestion here. So we call this gray text ghost text. And basically what I can do is I can, number one, make sure it's actually what I'm looking for, but I can hover over it and see, okay, I can accept this with tab, or if Copilot gave me other suggestions, I can flip through those here as well. But I'm going to accept that one. And I'm going to have it execute the query. It already suggested to me that that's what I want to do. So I'm going to execute the query, but I want to be more specific than that, because otherwise Copilot might give me something that I'm not totally looking for. So I'm going to say execute the query with student first name and last name. And it's given me the following suggestion. Awesome. I'm going to accept that. So first, let's run it and see if that even worked. So I'm expecting it to give me Sven, Fadi, and Hugo here. So let's save that and run it.
Yeah, I also like that it kind of is recommending suggestions as you type it. And then, of course, you know, it's giving you here, there's different link query types, right? So here it's doing the from, where. I prefer more of a fluent syntax. So you could always ask Copilot Chat to rewrite that for you, right? Which is kind of cool. Is sometimes you'll run around code and link queries, you know, to me, I've been doing this forever, so I understand what's kind of going on here, but you might prefer this type of link query compared to the fluent style, right? So you might want to have it convert to a non-fluent style that's more readable for you, and then Copilot can kind of help with that, which is really nice.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's something to remember with Copilot in general. You don't just always want to accept the first thing it gives you. You know, it is smart, it's a great tool, but it's just that, you know, it's a tool. You don't want it to write all of your code for you. It might not give you something you're familiar with. It might not give you exactly what you're looking for. Just really using it here and there, and depending on your preferences and experience level. So great, I got what I was looking for. But there's one last thing I really want to show off when it comes to using GitHub Copilot, and that's Inline Chat, which is one of my faves. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this, and I can open Inline Chat by doing Alt/. And this is basically like the chat window we had earlier, but inline, as you can imagine. And the reason that I really like to use this is because there's these cool things called / commands. You can use those in the other chat, but I like to see it next to my code. I think it makes more sense in my brain. And these are super cool. So these are basically built-ins that can help you do a bunch of things. So I could create unit tests. Copilot could document my code for me. It can help me fix stuff. It can generate code. And my personal favorite as somebody who works with students a lot is the explain / command. So if I click on this here and get that to go, and there we go. There we go. It'll actually give me a pretty thorough explanation of what's happening here. So that's pretty cool, because then, if I'm unfamiliar with the code base, for example, I can go in, I can look for pieces that I'm not used to or haven't seen before, and I can have it explain it to me. So, and then I can get rid of it by just escaping. So that's a very quick teaser about Copilot. Now we can actually get into the fun stuff, but I'm also happy to look at any questions in the chat.
Yeah, there's some good ones that came up. One was, so James, I think you kind of answered this one already. Can you specify method syntax rather than query syntax? And you can just tell it that like in your chat or whatever, right? In your comment.
Yeah, and I think even in that comment, you're right. Like, so it'll try to write code, obviously, to be smart. And also the other part is that Copilot will recommend code as you write it. So if you were to start to write, students dot, and it'll sort of start representing and trying to do stuff for you as well. So if you're already into fluent syntax, it'll kind of recommend things in that regard too. But I think if Katie rewrote that on top and was like, can you write it in a, method syntax or whatever it is, or fluent syntax, it may give you that recommendation as well based on what Copilot's analyzing there, which is really good. Code with Sean says documentation. What's that? That's a good thing. Yeah, there is docs for the / commands. The / commands were newer for me recently, and I think the team is working on adding that stuff. So that stuff's really, really neat, and we'll use that today in our adventure. Any other chats you see, John, at all in there?
Let me see. There was one about method names versus comments, and really, it feels like all of this, there's like as much kind of art and feel to it as science, and it's not going to do the same thing every time. Definitely, I find that if I have, method names and class names that are clearly labeled, that are very obvious what they're doing, and then throw in some, I use my comments to talk about the intent. Like I've gotten really verbose with my comments, and then I'll clean them up later, but I'll say, next, we will be querying an HTTP client using this, handle the exception cases, blah, blah, blah. 5 lines, you know what I mean? Give it tons of detail and then let it go, So
yeah, I've seen a lot of different kind of methodologies for how to Copilot, but the one that stuck with me was actually at Build last year. Burke mentioned it's really great to be as specific as possible with your prompts for the smallest task possible. So although you can probably get Copilot to write a whole bunch of stuff for you, you really want to be intentional with it, because otherwise, of course, it can spin up a bunch of stuff that you may not have wanted.
Yeah, so good questions here. Yeah, so Nitesh says, can you provide some examples with .NET Framework? It can work with anything, so it's just code. So whatever you have in there, that'd be good. So totally. And then another question was coming in from Keith. Does it work in VS Code? Absolutely. In fact, on Wednesday, not only is GitHub Universe happening, but there's also another live stream with Burke and Mark doing GitHub Copilot with VS Code. So definitely check that out as well, which is super rad. Cool. Here, Hamath was asking, is this the first demo? Actually, let's bring back my slides up a little bit, because some people might be joining in now that we have some groundwork there. Katie gave us that nice overview. If you're brand new to Copilot, never used it before, definitely check it out. This is the GitHub repo that we're going to be walking through for the next 40 minutes here. So this will give you not only an overview of the Copilot adventures that we're going to walk through. I'm going to go through the warm-up, and then John, our Copilot adventure extraordinaire, is going to walk through the most advanced no, I'm just kidding, whatever he wants, adventure. There's a bunch of different demos, adventures in here that you can go through these coding challenges, which is really, really cool in there. So definitely go to that ak.ms, Copilot adventures. We'll drop that in the chat. And then we're going to go through the warm up, and I'll show you what that looks like on the GitHub repo. But I want to go, this is the GitHub repo. Perfect. Anna, thank you. Let's go back to the slides one more time, because if you just joined, you probably want to get GitHub Copilot. And there's 2 ways to do that. Obviously, install Visual Studio and the Copilot extensions. there's a GitHub Copilot free trial available to everybody. That's a 30-day free trial. We mentioned this earlier in the stream. This will give you 30-day access to Copilot. So if you don't have that yet, that's a way and the best way to get GitHub Copilot. Now, for some reason, you've already used a free trial up, or for example, you don't have a credit card that you can enter because the free trial does require like the billing stuff to be set up. We've worked really close with GitHub with these coupon codes. This is a 7-day coupon to use GitHub Copilot. These are limited for this stream and only active for this stream, and you'll have 7 days to use Copilot. But there's directions on the GitHub page. And then additionally, that coupon code, the Copilot coupon VS, is the one that you'll use. That is the URL and the instructions to activate Copilot. And the great part here, since everything is on the GitHub repo, if you're just following along today, you want to try to do it live with us, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. You can easily come do this later, but we're here to help as well. So let's go over to my screen and let's go through the Copilot Adventures. Very cool. All right. So inside of the Copilot Adventures GitHub repo, there's a bunch of stuff here, including the Adventures tab, which has a bunch of beginner, intermediate, advanced scenarios. And then additionally, there are some finished solutions as well, which is really cool. And this great GitHub repo README. So you can not only find links to the live stream for this is the one that's happening now, but if you're interested in VS Code with Copilot, there's one right here that you can click on. And I'm pretty sure that all of these images were generated with DALL-E, which is awesome. So this whole thing is AI for everything. So there's a few ways to do this adventure. We're going to be using Visual Studio and the repository here. But basically, we're going to take a look at using Copilot and do this warm-up adventure. And then down here, we have links to those different adventures throughout. So I'm going to go ahead and do the warm-up adventure and click on that here. And you don't need to clone anything or do anything like this. This warm-up is going to guide us through just using Copilot in general. So this little robot's ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Copilot and we're going to try to convert some comments into code. We're going to try to create some different things inside of here. And there's tons of stuff that you can do with Copilot. And Burke, our good friend Burke, always has a great walkthrough. Okay, cool. So again, here is the instructions for the Copilot license that we linked to earlier. And the first adventure is going to be this, this little Chamber of Echoes warm-up, basically. So here we're perched atop the highest hill overlooking the kingdom. We stands this majestic Echo Castle. Look how beautiful it is. There's like windmills and other stuff. And I don't know how you get to it, but it's there. There's no bridge involved. Within the stone wall is a chamber known as the Echo Room. This chamber, unlike any other, has the mystic power to echo numbers to anyone who enters. However, the Echo Room doesn't just echo back any number. It always echoes the next number in a sequence. Legends tell of a wizard who enchanted this chamber to test the intellect of visitors. The room would echo numbers in sequence, and only those who could predict the next echo were deemed worthy of the castle's hidden treasure. So our task in this warm-up is to enter the Echo Room and listen to its sequence, then predict the next number in the echo. We'll be provided with a series of numbers the room has echoed in the past, and we're going to use these to predict the future echoes as well. And John is super excited because this is basically escape room setup, and John loves it. Yeah. So, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Yes. So Nana in the chat there, the coupon code XXYY is an example one. You want to use the URL that we provided, the Copilot coupon VS. That's the second link that was sent out. That is the one that's there. So let's bring our slides back up really, really quick. So take a screenshot of this. So there's two URLs in that direction. That's going to have the XXXYYY. And when you click on that last coupon code, that final aka.ms down there, that's going to give you the actual coupon code there. So we didn't embed it into the GitHub repo there. So Dan will help out there. Cool. Back to my stuff. Okay, cool. All right. So there's some inputs here. So we have a list of a few numbers in the sequence, and we want to know the next one. So the sample data here is consider this sequence 3, 6, 9, 12. And ideally, the next number would be 15. that's coming out there. So we're kind of increasing by 3, or the difference between the two of them and adding them. There's kind of different ways that we're looking at here. So the sample here is actually in JavaScript, and we're going to use C# throughout this adventure. So we're going to go ahead and try to do this inside of Visual Studio. So here we're given some JavaScript over here, this echo, const echoes, and then an int array. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that.
One crazy thing here.
Yes.
Like Burke and I have been doing this thing where we're converting a Vue application to Blazor.
Yeah.
And it had Sass that we needed to convert to CSS. And like, we have been shocked at how good we took a bunch of Sass code and we said, convert this to CSS. And it was crazy. Like the language translation skills are pretty amazing.
Well, let's give that a try. I'm going to go over to Visual Studio and I'm going to create a new console app. So inside of Visual Studio, new console app. And I'm going to call this Copilot Adventures Warmup. There we go. I'm just going to create that there. I'm going to select .NET 8 over here and spin that up. So this is just going to give us a file new project. So it's going to be pretty minimal. I'm going to make the fonts nice and large for us here. Perfect. That's about how I code normally. So amazing. All right. So let's actually do that. So I have that code, if we remember here, right over here, this code. So I'm just going to hit the copy button and I'm going to flip back over here. So here it says Copilot's enabled, so I can start typing. So that's good. And I'm going to do what Katie showed earlier. So I'm going to do view, then GitHub Copilot chat. So let's just go ahead and talk to Copilot over here. I'm going to say, what would this code look like in C# instead of JavaScript? And then I'm just going to paste in the code there and hit go. Let's see what Copilot says. Oh, perfect. Okay, it just gives me the code. Awesome. So int echoes, it's an int array. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy that. And I'm just going to delete all the code here and paste it in. Perfect. So far, that looks about right. And now Visual Studio is giving me some indicators that I could use collection expressions. I could use a var here. There's different code that I could use, for example, right? Well, let's see if Copilot's chat's smart, right? I think that's the other part is like, we want to guess the next value in this thing. So I'm assuming it's 15 and we know it's 15 based on the example. So let's just ask it, what would the next value be in this array based on the current sequence? Because you can also just ask it questions, right? You can just be like, hey, what's going on? All right, so here we go. So it says, based on the current sequence, the next value in the array would be 15. This is because the sequence is increased by 3 each time. So the next number after 12 would be 12 plus 3 equals 15. So cool. And it even shows us like if we wanted to insert that, which we're not going to do. But let's say, let's just ask it to write a sequence, like a little, predictor, I'll say, can you write a method that predicts the next value in the array? There we go. See what GitHub Copilot says. Okay, cool. So, and this is going to, I'm going to go ahead and just put this in here. This is going to give us a public method here. Now we're inside of our console app, so we don't need to give our method a public identifier here. So we're just going to say predict next value. Now here, this is going to take a look at this, and it's going to say the last value is the array -1, and then it's going to get the next value, which is the last value, and this is saying array of 1 minus sub 0. So this is going to say here's the difference in it. This would be 3 because this would be 6 minus 3 inside of here, and it's going to grab the last one. So it's trying to figure out here. This is interesting. I'm not sure 100% if it's 100% correct or not, or the best way to predict the value, but it is a way to predict the next value, which is figuring out the difference here, which is 3, and then adding it to the last number. So that would be correct in many regards. So that kind of looks okay. Let's see what they said over here inside of the chat. So this one here is looking at the difference here. This is the node example. This is saying the difference minus the next. So it kind of did exactly what the sample code said for us to do. So that's kind of cool. So the next thing it wants us to do in the warm-up is print it out. So just print out the next value. So let's go ahead and let's do something a little bit different here. I'll say, let's go ahead and have it simply output the next value in the sequence for me. And we should be able to use that there. There we go. Cool. Sometimes we get that little extra tick there. So here we go. So this is going to just say console write line predicts next value, passes in the echoes. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this here in Visual Studio. And I'll add a breakpoint here because why not? And we can go ahead and run this. So it's going to run here. Here we go. And there we go. So we hit our breakpoint. So let me go ahead and collapse some of this stuff down for us. There we go. And we can see the last value here was 12, which you can kind of see by this little pop up here. And we can see our array has all these different numbers in it. So 3, 6, 9, 12. And then it's going to figure out 12. And then it's going to take array sub 6 minus 3. That's 3. And the next value is 15. So it's going to return that 15 to us. And it'll go ahead and output that on my console. So here we go, right up top there, 15. Perfect. So it looks pretty good. All right, what else do we need it to do? Okay, so let's go back to our code here. And it says, all right, move your cursor above predict and select, I guess, Control I on Windows, or here just GitHub, Copilot Chat Online, and do /doc. So we're going to use that cool doc command that Katie showed us earlier. So I'm just going to do, we can right click and I can actually do ask Copilot. That's my favorite. I'm just going to do /. And there we go. So we have create test, doc, explain, fix, generate, help. So I'm just going to do doc and then just go ahead and hit enter there. See what it'll give us. Perfect. So we can actually, this is really cool. We can actually see inline what Copilot Chat is predicting here and generating for us. It says it predicts the next value and the difference between the first two values. So it's going to add those in. So I'm going to go and accept that there. It's going to add these comments in here, which is cool. I do note that it actually seemed to have deleted my my code in here. Oh, put it in the wrong. Where did it put it? Put it somewhere. Copy that maybe. I'll put it over here. There we go. Cool. So this is really nice. So it's gone in. It said predicts the next value. It even gives me parameters. This is the array of integers representing the sequence. And then it returns the next sequence in the list, which is pretty cool. So that's pretty cool. I don't know. I love it. It just does stuff, right? I love it. Cool. All right. So let's see what the next we got to do over here. We got to assume we want to store these memories. And then we want to apparently just kind of add the next prediction into this list. So that should be easy enough for us to ask Copilot. So I'm just going to create a var of memories, a new list of int in here. There we go. I'm going to say, let's store the full sequence of echoes into memories. There we go. See what it gives us. Cool. Easy peasy. So it just adds it one at a time. So not bad. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to go, I'll put the next value. We want it to add the next value into memory. So let's see what it does here. There we go. So just going to say memories.add, predict the next value. And let's have it output all of them. So again, Copilot Chat's kind of like figuring out what I'm doing here. So have it output of not memories, but of not of echoes, but of memories here. So let's go ahead and see what it does next, which ideally, oh, cool. This is kind of nice. It actually just did a console.write line and then use string.join. So it's outputting the full sequence of memories. So here it's just assuming that's comma delimited, but I could say, you know, output the full sequence of memories on, oh, look at this, in reverse on one line each. I don't know. Let's see what else it does now and go to town. Cool. Perfect. So it just does it. You know, it automatically will now go through and it'll put it out on one line, but you just tell it what you want it to do and it just kind of does it, right? Which is pretty rad. So let's go ahead and run this again and see what we get on the output. Oh, perfect. Here we go. So we get first 15. So that's the next value. It's going to add all of them up, output it, and then do the reverse. So boom, there we go. So there is our warm up. So just kind of walking through using both Copilot Chat, our inline hints inside of there and directives, and then just kind of telling what we want it to do. So there we go.
There was a really good question that came up from Keith asking, will Copilot be able to assist in debugging and understanding error messages?
That's a good question. I don't know if it does today.
So I've had I've had some good success with that. Sometimes I'm still getting used to the UI. I think there was a way in the error message or the exception to ask, but also just in the chat, as Dan's saying, I'll just copy the entire exception, throw it in there and say, please explain this. Or another thing is, while I'm debugging, I'll have it at a breakpoint and there'll be an exception. And I'll just in Copilot Chat say, please explain this exception or fix this exception. And I mean, it's not right all the time, but it knows more than I do most of the time. So
yeah.
John, have you ever tried the /fix command? I wonder if that would also.
It probably would. It depends. So like I guess for an exception, it depends how complicated the problem is, right? Like I a lot of the time I'll want to understand what even is the exception, and what does this mean? What did I do wrong or something? I gotta try that though. That /fix is good.
I'm gonna ask it on the code that it generated to /fix and see what it does in general. I don't know if it knows what could possibly be wrong. Okay. It's like, it thinks it wants to do right instead of right lines. Okay. Again. Yeah. Interesting. Cool. All right. Do we want to head over to you, John, to walk us through our adventure?
Sure. Sounds good. All right. So I played with some of these. The one that I liked was the Legendary Duel of Stonevale. I will make a disclaimer, which is the more complex an issue or the more complex a scenario, the more different the code I'll get every time. Like it feels like I'll ask the same question and get a kind of different answer. So that is something like I've seen when I've done some it's like demos at conferences or something, and I've had to practice it multiple times. So I have both the completed code here, and then I have also one that I just ran through and got from before in case it does something crazy on me. But so this one is kind of a rock, paper, scissors scenario. There's two warriors. There's rock and paper. And they're they're going to duel, and a rock win gives 1 point, paper gives 2 points, and scissors win gives 3 points. So they both choose a move, and if it's a draw, no points, etc. Rock, paper, scissors. So here's a silly thing that I have tried doing. I went into, I created, file new console app. You've seen that before, so you don't need me to do that. The one interesting thing that I did is I actually, in the comments at the top, I pasted the entire instructions in.
Oh, wow.
And I've just gone way down this rabbit hole or I don't know, methodology of just give it all the info. This is partly based on, so this is a light theme. I was in dark theme, and then I saw Katie presenting in white. I do agree it presents a little better for a live stream, so that's what I'm doing today. So I learned.
You in light theme or default theme? You should go to default theme. That's where Katie was at.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah,
so here,
I was in dark mode. Yeah, you want blue?
Should I do
blue
dark?
mode. Blue, not just blue.
Just not red, because I can't do blue.
Why?
Let's all do different themes. Just keep it.
Red theme. Yeah, live your life, I guess. Whatever makes you happy, John.
Here's a nice theme.
Okay.
So anyways, Stephen Taub did a bunch of blog posts. One was on retrieval augmented generation or whatever. And he basically fed in an entire blog post line by line into it. And so the idea is basically the more context you can provide, the better. So that's what I'm going with. So the first thing that I need is a warrior class. And I've already given some details here about what this warrior class is. A warrior has a name and a score. So there's different ways to do that. I can go in to chat and say, generate a warrior class. I could also, if I do that, then I've got to actually put it in a file. Let's start with that. Generate a warrior class with a name and a score. So the one low-key wonky thing here is this is awesome. I can create a new file. Ooh. When I do that, I get this prompt. Oh no, actually, okay, never mind. When I did it before, I think I hadn't saved something, and I had to go in and do the file dialog, and I didn't want to do that. Okay. Oh, see, there it is.
Oh, there it is.
So that's fine. Do I want to replace it? Yes, I think. So here, I think I'm in a folder. That's not great. Okay. So now I've got a warrior class, and the real guts of this are going to go into my dual class.
Did it actually add it to your project, though?
Did it?
I don't see it in the solution. Maybe you added it into the one that you did previously.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Save warrior class. So now is it not add existing item?
Yeah, because it should show up there. You must have just highlight over that tab and see where it's at.
Yeah, I'll just, you know what I'll do is I will copy this, I'll close it, and I'll just go the way I was starting to do before and just right click add class. Because I'm also, like, as an aside here, I'm kind of balancing between how much I want Copilot to do and how much I want to do myself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so warrior.
It's always the challenge, right? And I think when it did the prompt, it probably asked you where do you want, but it just, you needed to pick the right location for it because it might have been a subfolder. And the reason I knew it didn't pop up was because it should show in the project solution, just like we see there. So
yeah, okay. So there we go. There's a warrior. Okay, cool. So let's save. Okay, so now I also want to create a dual class, and so I'll do that here. So I'll do add class dual, and this is where kind of the most of the guts is going to be. So I'm going to say, let's see, create a dual class. Sure, that sounds good.
Do you think it's doing that based on the context that you gave it earlier? Because someone was asking, like, does it use the entire context of everything in the project?
Yes. So from what I've been told is that, and from presentations I've seen, is actually the other tabs that you have open make a difference.
Ah.
So if you've got a large project, 100 files or something open, make sure that the ones you're working with, give it the context by which ones are open. You know what I mean?
Good, nice. And good question from TDD. Do you need to install both extensions in Visual Studio? Yes, you need both GitHub Copilot and GitHub Copilot Chat. So you need both of those installed to see both of them. So there you go.
Okay, so generate the dual method.
I'm a big fan of using both of them, like you're kind of doing, is different previews, because this kind of can give you options. You can kind of talk to it in line. Like, let's say you're reading that, right, and you're like, oh, I don't know what it's doing. You could say, write it this other way, right? Instead of, often when I'm writing inline, I kind of go back and forth, right? Because it's like, sometimes I like it to just generate the code for me if it's like simple, but something like this, you could go back and forth with the chat, right? And then ask it to do stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so I see here that it's kind of okay, but it's not actually following like the rock, paper, scissors rules, right? So I need to kind of back up on this. This is just saying, hey, I've got a warrior and a score. It's making a guess, and that guess is not useful, right? So here, what I want to actually do is say, use rock, paper, scissors rules for this dual. So Okay. Use no. So this was actually, it told me what it was going to do. Use the scores to determine the winner, right? And I didn't read that. Use the rock, paper, scissors of each round. Okay. All right. Sure. Fine. So now I'll say generate the dual method.
So it's using the context from your files is what it's doing.
Yeah. Okay. So here I'm saying this is not helpful. And I actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of score because I think score is throwing it off. Right. So instead, so more context here, I think. Each round, a warrior will pick randomly between rock, paper, and scissors. Okay.
And this is kind of interesting too, because like you're kind of just experimenting with Copilot, right?
I totally am. Yeah. And like when I went through and did this before, I'll be honest, the first time I did this, I threw in the rules and it basically was like, boom, and it like guessed at a pretty good one. So,
wow.
Okay. So now generate a dual method. And I think also maybe, okay. Generate a dual method. A dual method where each warrior will randomly pick a between and the method will show the winner output. All right, let's see how this goes. It's okay. So I'm getting happier about this. So we've got rock, paper, scissors, and it does have a long method there, which we can optimize later. But this is feeling like this is getting a lot better, right? So nice. Okay. So this is saying, I don't like this method here. This is kind of long. Can this line be simplified?
Yes.
Yes, it can, right? Okay, so I'm digging that already, right? And as with anything, I want to now look at this and say like, okay, does this make sense? So like number one, this code now is broken, but whatever. Switch. Is this handling cases with, okay. So I think that's good. So
it's basically saying, what's interesting here is like it's also handling the tie case too, because like you would think you kind of in the very beginning there say warrior 1 choice and warrior 2 choice is no longer a tie. Like the switch case is handling it for you, right? So this is saying like rock beats scissors up top, and then you don't need any of that stuff then.
So now I can just say like here I know what it's trying to do, right? So I can instead say write out
it wants to do so much for you, John. It's like I can write out more.
Okay. And so here it thinks it does need an if case though, huh?
Well, I think you just need to maybe ask Copilot chat instead of writing, in your chat line, right? You're in your Copilot chat, say, instead of writing the line, assign and return a winner.
Okay.
Right?
Or just assign. Yeah, okay, makes sense. Instead of console output assign. I'm curious if other people, like, I would encourage people that are watching to either do this, follow along and do this now, or like, yeah, okay, so it went back to this, which is fine. I can convert.
But it is returning. Oh, it's returning the warrior name wins or whatever instead of outputting new line, right? It's returning the string to it.
Yeah.
I would say maybe ask it to use a switch case.
Okay. Convert this. All right, let's see.
Bam.
Okay, so what is it returning here? It's still returning string. This is looking like the best we've had so far, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to do that. And then I also covertly removed the comments at the top, right? Because I don't need those anymore. Okay, so this is public. I shouldn't have done that because now I no longer have a class. So I shouldn't have done that. So instead, I'm going to just collapse this. Actually, that is
just
weird.
Put it in a class.
This is in a dual class, yeah. So public class dual. Or I could do it, make it a static. I don't know. I'll just make it a static, really. I just need a method, right?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. Now something else is going to blow up.
I think you still need to put it in a class, though.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, put it in a public static class, probably, and then make it static, right?
I was just being lazy. Public dual. And learn to spell class. This is one too where I probably could have had it do more of this for me. And there. Another thing too, I want to make sure I include some time before we end if I don't get to it, because I want to show off an interesting optimization it did before. Public static perform dual.
Yeah, I don't think you need the open close in the online 6.
In the online. I think that's good, right?
Oh, I guess so. Yeah, primary constructors. I totally forget. Technically, yeah.
Okay, so we're looking good there. So now I think let's double check our instructions and make sure we're going along the line here. So here's an interesting thing I should get to later, but there's actually a difference where a rock win is 1 point, a paper is 2 points, and whatever. So we actually are not following all those rules. So I think what I need to do is somehow return the warrior needs to get assigned a certain number of points, right? So that's kind of tricky. So change this so that the following points are assigned to the winning. So this is interesting because we're passing in the warrior, and we can actually set the points to that warrior, right? This is kind of weird. So I could say, this is getting a little trickier. If the so change this.
I don't think you gave it what the points were.
Yeah, it's just increasing by 1 at this point.
Okay. So here, let me say,
I like the way, John, that you put the context just in the file, and then you use chat more so to generate code. I think that's an interesting approach here.
Yeah, it's something I'm playing with, but it feels like this is something I'm kind of going to want to keep around for a little longer. And the chat's kind of like this running thing, right? So, okay, so let me try the same thing again. So I'll try just going up arrow.
And I'm always fascinating too, like where it's taking the context from. Is it taking context from the chat, or is it taking it from, somewhere else, for example?
Yeah.
Like, is the chat just continuing to iterate on previous chats, like Katie was saying, or is it like, or is the chat using this now? Like, if you did the chat inline, for example, like if you,
Oh yeah, and highlighted.
yeah, if you like highlight that,
highlight this, you think?
yeah, and then right click on it and say chat.
I'll try the alt slash. I'm trying to learn that.
There you go. And then say,
the winner for each duo gets
maybe each warrior should have a points integer on it.
Yeah, you're
see
right.
What it tries to do. We'll
so
see if it
that's
tries
part
to
of
do
the problem, right? I took that off of there before, so I need the winner has to have a certain number of a score. Oh, it had a score before. Okay,
Then you removed it.
This is part of the fun of pair programming. Control Z.
There you go.
Score. Okay, it was like I can't do that for you, buddy. Okay, increment the warrior score, winning warrior score.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah. Okay. See, I've been told to think of Copilot as a pair programmer. So it's really, I've got both of you and Copilot. We're all pair programming together. Okay, so what is it doing? That's...
Scroll down. Was it doing anything else?
No?
Oh, there it goes.
0 + 1, where 2 plus... Okay. That's cool, I think. Let's accept it.
Yeah, I feel like it's getting closer.
It's getting closer. And you know what? This is one of those cases where a lot of time I'll just go, I know what you're trying to do here, buddy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And then you need it to figure out, like, what it picked, right? So rock, paper, or scissors.
So, okay. So it's not using the score, right? So when, or is it? Nope. Change the switch. So a paper win gives 2 points. Is it doing that?
It's getting closer, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's do this. And a scissors win. Okay. I got a good feeling about this one.
I also wonder, like, the difference between describing it in English versus if you list out the cases, because maybe it's like, what is a paper win? I'm not sure.
I think this is it. Let me try.
Did I get it?
I think so. So it's the one thing I'm going to have to rename the method because it's still using the method name. So I like using the collapse and then copy, and then I'll just go, and then this I'll just rename it back to whatever it's done. So warrior, and then here I need to rename points to score, and this is going to be easier if I just go, like I can kind of play golf, or I can mess with the thing, or I can just go like dot score, right? Replace them all. Cool.
Yeah, it looks like it got closer. on it, because it seems you have like the first warrior choice, score plus equals 2 and then plus equals 3, and then looks like it's close, right? So then you could just say or plus plus, right? So it's kind of closer-esque.
Yeah. So what's going on here? Why does it have comma 1? I think we just want that.
I think you want to copy whatever warrior 2 was. Yeah, get rid of that 2.
I think we're good there.
But then warrior 1, if it's scissors, needs to be incremented by 3.
Where are we saying?
See how line 14 and line 18 are a little bit different?
Yeah.
So.
Gosh, it seems like this line.
That line is correct, but you just need to add another switch case. Copy that warrior 2 choice on line 18 equals scissors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Warrior 2 choice.
Yeah, all the way to that one. Yeah, all the way to the
end.
To the end, right? And then
go ahead and switch around warrior 2 choice to warrior 1.
Exactly, and warrior 2 dot score equals
There we go.
Yeah, and then that one, and then the last one. There you go.
Funny how a simple rock paper scissors, but it's including score, makes it a little bit more.
A little bit harder, yeah, because you had the rock paper scissors working like down pat, right? And then the score gets complicated.
Okay, so
I think we're almost at time. Do you want to try to do a test duel?
Yeah. So let's say do run through a for each loop with 5 duels and output that's not great. Oh, there, it did it. And it's funny, you like type and you're, come on, there we go. Okay. Duel. So we need to create new
warriors.
Yeah. So there it is.
Nice. Oh, awesome. And that's Copilot also helping inside of there as well. Looks like you just need a constructor for it.
Here. And lazy. Okay. Cool. Let's copy it. Okay. Initializing the points, which is nice. It's looking good. I think we can run it. So let's go over here.
It gave you points, not score, right? Aren't we doing
score? Oh, yeah.
Where did it do points? Oh.
Yeah, what's the, is it
right. It's gonna break.
Points, yeah.
Good, thanks.
It's not even gonna compile.
No. And let's do it again. This is in tiny print.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. So let me see. So it wrote out the final score. So Rock is the winner. So I can play with that. I did want to show, I know we're at time. I did want to show one crazy thing that when I played with this longer and another one, it actually, there's further challenges in there where it seems to do, there's further challenges on optimization and stuff like that. And one crazy one that it did was I kept saying, optimize this further, optimize this further. And it had this thing where it pre-computed the winner. So it uses this like matrix. And so like it's super fast now because it's able to do it based off this like winner loser matrix. So anyways, there's a lot more you can go further with that. So
nice.
Wow. I wish I had that for coding interviews back in the day.
Right. So I guess we're kind of at time there. I feel like this definitely helped to go through. I think that what I took out of this and continue to take out of it is give tons of context. Don't, like read all the code, make sure it's actually right. And then like it's an iterative process. The more complex of a thing you're doing, the more useful it is to kind of iterate. So.
Yeah. And I find it a little bit helpful, like Copilot Chat, we did a lot of like file new. I find it even more beneficial in existing projects as I'm adding code and I'm explaining code and doing things like that. So these different use cases for it. Well, let's hop back to the slides really quick and then we'll wrap up. And hopefully everyone's kind of playing around their own adventures. We are looking for feedback in general. We'll drop this link into the chat, this AK.MS for Copilot Adventures feedback. Let us know how you like this stream, how you're enjoying Copilot. If you have any questions on there as well, there's a few things in there. It just takes a few seconds to give us some feedback on it. We appreciate it. And then with that, we also want to let you know there's a lot of upcoming events as well. There's GitHub Universe this week and a whole GitHub Universe Cloud Skills Challenge. We also have .NET Conf happening next week, which is the largest .NET virtual conference for free online. Then also Ignite happening next week. So many exciting things for developers happening. So that is it for this Copilot adventure. I want to thank everyone for joining in. Thanks to Katie and John and everyone and Anna behind the scenes making this all happen. So I hope you all enjoyed it. Play around with Copilot and have fun. So thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.